If I can just ask you a quick follow-up to this. Now, I mean, this is something that has come up in Washington a fair bit, and having talked to people in the city for the past few days, I mean, what they're saying is that the stakes have now been raised. It's not just that Pakistan is said to have links with these militants, is now that they are accused of aiding their acts of terrorism inside Afghanistan. That's the general sentiment in Washington. How would you respond to that particular change in stance that we've seen from the US administration, US officials?
And Colonel Munir, in line with what Raza is asking you, Admiral Mullen's language this time suggests that US has evidence that Pakistan support Haqqani in some way or the other, and it doesn't seem to be just intelligence reports suggesting such contact.
You see, he may be having evidence that we are talking to Haqqani network. Who was talking to Mullah brother? Weren't American talking to him? The Talibans, the good Talibans, now last month UN lifted ban on 15 Taliban leaders. On whose instructions? On America's instruction. When America is talking to Taliban and we are talking to Taliban, the moment they started, when Mullah brother was captured, it was revealed that he was in dialogue with the Afghan government, the British government, and the British general said that it's a great setback to the reconciliation process. So I'm not advocating Haqqani network, but pinning it down on Haqqani only will be a mistake.
All right, and that makes me want to ask you, Mr. Chaudhry, why does Pakistan need to support the Haqqani network? This is something that has come up quite a few times, but I think it's important to revisit that. Why does Pakistan want to support Haqqani?
Again, it's a part of a different narrative. I'm afraid that's how Washington is going to look at it. But the mere fact that we have an area of North Waziristan, which is very difficult to track, it's a very impossible terrain there. Pakistan goes into a war with an extended army into two major operations, and still those forces stay within Swat and within South Waziristan. We are being pushed to do another operation, another front. Like I said, this war is going to stay on for 10 years. I mean, yes, it's going to help America if the Haqqanis are more focused towards Pakistan rather than Afghanistan. That's precisely what American interest is. But that's not the Pakistani interest. The Pakistani interest is peace throughout Pakistan as well as Afghanistan. So I think that's where the difference of opinion is coming
Before
out.
we go to Washington, very quickly, Colonel Munir.
In 2009, Governor NWFP, who is the chief executive of FATA, he has given instruction as per the constitution of Pakistan to Pakistan Army to take action against elements. Timing has been left to Pakistan Army. We have cleared an area from Tang to Chitral. We are fighting over there. 150,000 of our soldiers are fighting over there. North Waziristan is the only place which is left. It is shown not only Haqqani network which is over there, the people remnant of South Waziristan, they are there in Mirali, in Miran Shah. We have never seen a drone attack on Mirali TTP persons. Right. You see, and this is the unfortunate. Yeah. But at this time, when the peace was about to come, the allies shouldn't have fought. Yeah. Otherwise, I am telling you today that this schedule of 2014 of America will not materialize.
All right, and one of Pakistan's concerns has been imbalance of regional power. And Mr. Dhume, I want to ask you, do you find these concerns of Pakistan about the imbalance of regional power in the region, about what happens in Afghanistan next, quite valid? What are the ways to go about that?
You know, I think that's a very good question. I think that anybody who looks at this reasonably will say that Pakistan has certain legitimate interests. You know, if I put myself in the position of a policymaker in Islamabad, I would say that it makes perfect sense for Pakistan to not want an Afghanistan that is hostile to Pakistan. That is perfectly legitimate, that's perfectly rational. But the problem really arises from 2 points. The first is that it's one thing to not want a country that is hostile to Pakistan. It's another thing to want to simply control a neighbor and have a veto over how that neighbor is governed. And many people believe, including me, that it's the latter that drives Pakistani policy in Afghanistan. The second thing is that in this jostling for position or power or whatever you call it, it happens in all countries. It happens around the world. But there are certain civilized rules that countries follow, and one of the things that they do not do is send insurgents across a border and attack civilians. That's what this attack was. And I think my Pakistani friends, they go on about the process and who is speaking to the Haqqani network and who is speaking to whom, but the fact is that the CIA or anyone, whoever they may be speaking to, they are not setting out to actively destabilize Afghanistan. They're not setting out to actively destabilize Pakistan. That is not in US interest. What the US would like is for Pakistan to be stable, for Afghanistan to be stable, and for South Asia to be prosperous.
Has run Afghanistan in the last 10 years. And so therefore now Pakistan is being targeted for trying to influence Afghanistan. You have a country that has come from thousands of miles away and running the system of Afghanistan, placing presidents, conducting elections, and trying to actually stay on beyond 2014. And along with that, now you have recriminations for the fact that Pakistan is also trying to influence Afghanistan. Like I said earlier, we need to get beyond this strategic depth issue. It is not within Pakistan's capacity today to try and perhaps live the ideals or notions of about 20-25 years back. What is gone in the past is gone in the past. That's about 25 years back. Let's grow out of strategic depth now, for God's sake.
Right. And Mr. Cohen, if I could ask you, when we hear from the United States that Pakistan should sever all its ties with the Haqqani network, could you please elaborate a little upon that? What kind of ties does the US think that Pakistan has with the Haqqani network that should be severed?
Is that for me? That was for Mr. Cohen, if you could take that.
Oh, sure. Sorry, yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure what the U.S. wants is, to stop supporting the kind of network and stop providing operational support for attacks that they're waging in Afghanistan, and that's a reasonable thing to ask. But just to go back to my colleague's point, look, nobody questions that Pakistan has interest in Afghanistan. I mean, what they want in Afghanistan is very different from what the U.S. wants in Afghanistan. The U.S. wants a strong central government run by President Karzai, in which Taliban is not a significant political actor. That is not in Pakistan's interest, and everyone knows that. Okay? And so what we've seen over the last couple of months, though, is a move toward reconciliation that would involve Taliban playing some political role in Afghanistan. Right. What's happening, though, is the Pakistani, they may view that in Islamabad as the best goal, but by supporting Haqqani, and providing, even institutional support for them, are undermining that process.
Right. I want to try and move.
Quickly have him.
Go ahead. Let me tell you that this is our right. Every country is right to wish for a friendly neighbor. United States would like to have Mexico as a friend, not as an enemy. In Cuba, there was slight chance of becoming an enemy, and you reacted in 1951 very, very badly or vigorously. We would like to have a friendly government in Afghanistan, but not through guns. Just you said that you would like, America would like Mr. Karzai to run Afghanistan. No, sir. Let Afghanistan be run by Afghans, not by Haqqanis, not by the American president, not by Pakistani government. Let them decide. And that's what the reconciliation process was, that bring all the factions of Afghanistan together and let them decide. And due to Rabbani's death, and now your statement, I see that we are losing that chance.
And let me just add, what is more important for Pakistan is a peaceful and stable Afghanistan, not a friendly Afghanistan. A friendly Afghanistan emerges out of a peaceful and stable Afghanistan. So if we want to try and bring peace within the region and with peace within Pakistan, which I believe should be the interest of the United States as well.
Let's get Mr. Cohen's reaction.
Right. Mr. Cohen, go ahead.
As I just said, I absolutely agree with that point. Pakistan has a significant interest in Afghanistan's future. In many respects, their interest is much more pressing than U.S. interests. The problem is that if the goal is, as you keep saying, peaceful reconciliation, supporting the Haqqani network when they are engaging in attacks that undermine that process there's a contradiction there, okay? Attacking the U.S. Embassy in Kabul not only weakens the relationship with the U.S., obviously, it also undermines public support for reconciliation with the Taliban, okay? So, you know, there has to be some actual substance behind these assertions of wanting peace in Afghanistan. And as of now, what you've seen consistently from Pakistan is the opposite.
Right.
Is that continuing the jockeying for political advantage with the use of insurgent groups.
Right. If we can,
can I just come in here? Just when you were having these difficulties in Kabul, when you were having these difficulties in Kabul, there were equal number of bigger explosions taking place in Pakistan. We have had major 4 or 5 explosions, attacks, killings that have taken place in Pakistan while things were happening in Kabul. Now, if that is, of course, what is our threat? That's a living threat, and we've got to counter that threat. And you cannot do it by not talking to each other or by threatening each other. That's the point. You've lived for 10 years together. You need to live out the last year and a half also together, so can you get the fruits out of what you have invested in.
On that point, I want to try and move the discussion a little bit forward here. We seem to have gone into sort of circular argument here. Mr. Cohen, I want to ask you sort of the politics of this a little bit. Now, as you have said, the U.S. government might have known or think they have known about these links between the Pakistani government and the Haqqani network for quite some time now. What's new is that Admiral Mullen has come out and said this. Now, presumably, the object of him doing that was to try and pressure Pakistan into taking some action against the Haqqani network. The question is, was this the right course of action for Admiral Mullen to take? Was it the right thing for him to do, to come out so publicly and in such a blunt way, which obviously has created animosity in Pakistan, in such a blunt way say and come out and say what he said last Thursday?
You know, I'm not so sure, because the problem is that the U.S. has diminishing leverage with Pakistan. It always has had very little leverage with Pakistan, and it has even less now because we're ultimately beginning to bring our troops home from Afghanistan. So, I mean, I agree with the frustration that was expressed by Admiral Mullen, and by the way, I agree with my colleague before. It was not an accident that it was Mullen who said it. Mullen has been the closest official to Pakistan. That he said it is significant. The problem is what happens next. What happens if there's another Haqqani network-style attack in Afghanistan? Is the U.S. going to respond with a cross-border raid? I kind of doubt that, and I'm not sure the U.S. wants to get in that kind of a situation. To me, the way I would read Mullen's comments is it was an effort to put pressure on Kayani to sort of clamp down on what the ISI is doing in Afghanistan. To me, that may actually end up backfiring.
Right.
And I think the problem from the beginning has been that the U.S. hasn't figured out how to deal with Pakistan, and hasn't figured out a way to factor in Pakistan's interest in Afghanistan into their own policy in Afghanistan. And you've had this problem from day one, and I think, you know, ultimately what the U.S. wants in Afghanistan is not what the Pakistanis want in Afghanistan.
Right.
And until the U.S. kind of amends their policy to reflect that, we're going to keep having these problems.
Mr. Dhume, go ahead. Yeah.
I disagree entirely with Mr. Cohen. I think that the sort of, I think we underestimate exactly how much leverage the U.S. has. Let's be realistic over here. Look at the size of Pakistan's economy. Look at the state of Pakistan's economy. Look at the kind of diplomatic, financial, and military muscle the U.S. brings to this. This is not to suggest the U.S. is about to invade Pakistan. That would be very foolish, and no one is saying that. But I think after playing this sort of, after whispering this in Pakistan's ear for so many years, I think there is a role to come out and say it publicly, to ratchet up the pressure. I think it reflects American public opinion accurately, and I think it also it creates circumstances where, of course, the Pakistani government has responded by getting its back up, but on the other hand, I think it creates a sense of very necessary crisis, that things cannot go on. It can't just be business as usual. Pakistan cannot support these groups and expect there not to be consequences. But so to that extent, I think that it's a gamble, but it's a gamble that may pay off, and it's too early for us to say that it would simply not work.
Well, before we go into Islamabad, I mean, you said this accurately. It's a gamble, and that's the downside of it, right? I mean, you know, there's this now perception that it is going to lead to some sort of military conflict. I mean, what some experts have said, that now that Admiral Mullen has said this, it's now incumbent upon the United States to take some sort of action, especially after Leon Panetta says we will take all measures to protect our troops. I mean, do you think the United States now has to do something in terms of military action?